Alright, Oran Park. Track is 26 degrees, so it's a little on the hot side, a little slippery. 22 degrees, you know, that's definitely going to be a faster track, a little faster lap times. This is obviously hot tires, low fuel. The description, the setup is in the description below. If you watch the last track guide, you know I don't always just default to a 5/8 setting. This one, again, it's a 1 SPO, an 8 ARB. The difference is I switched the brake bias to 54%, just because into turn 1 here, it's easy to lose the back end, and a little more rear brake helps settle it a little bit. So we'll go through the laps, slow-mo, turn by turn, and then run it out at full speed. So here we go. So coming into turn 1, obviously get to the right side, we're in 5th gear. Again, tires are hot. You probably want to lift just before this curb when the tires are cold. This track is hot, so I am lifting here just because the track is hot. Normally I would be going full throttle still. You want to take this curb, get the tires on it, try and straight line it as best you can. So I'm lifting here, getting on the brakes, and I'm shifting down into 4th. Now getting on the brakes a little harder, and just kind of looking at these cones on the left to start getting on the brakes harder, shifting down through the gears. You don't want to just shift them right down to 1st. Your back end will lock up and you'll be spinning. You basically want to ease the brakes harder and harder as you get down here, just to keep the car straight. You don't want to lose that back end, and shifting down into 4th. And as you start to turn in here, you got to start getting on the gas. That's going to stabilize the back end. Just trail braking, important to practice this trail braking for a lot of corners on a lot of tracks, so practice it if you're not doing it. Getting on the throttle, sort of aiming for these trees, getting on full throttle. Once the tires are warm, the back end's going to hold up real tight. You may just have to be a little slower when they're cold, or if you're on a cooler track you can probably manage it earlier. Working back up through the gears. Now coming up here, my brain always wants me to shift to 4th, but I keep it in 3rd. Up into 4th gets too complicated, I find, and you're probably going to lose time. So what I would do is, normally I would be braking kind of right after these tires, but because the track is hot, I'm braking just in front of them. So pretty hard on the brakes, down into 1st. And this apex, all apexes are important, but this one's real important because you can lose a lot of time here. This one's really punishing. Again, trail braking, so just keeping those brakes on and slowly releasing them in 1st gear, getting back on the power. You don't want to touch this curb. If you just rub it a little bit, not the end of the world, but don't get on the curb. You are going to spin out or have a lot of trouble. Unwinding the wheel, working the way up through the gears into 2nd, into 3rd. Get onto this, onto the curbs here, but don't go over. This is an off track, and you easily will spin. So up into 3rd gear again. You could keep this in 2nd, but I find getting into 3rd a little faster as well. Coming up here, the shift I find helps settle the car. So again, on a cooler track I would be braking probably just in front of these tires, but because it's cold, or because it's slick, I'm braking before the tires here. So pretty hard on the brakes, down into 1st gear. Now there's a ridge here, a hump. If you're carrying too much speed, it's really going to unsettle the car, so you do have to make sure you have the car slowed down a fair bit. And again, this apex is really important because you will lose a lot of time in this corner if you don't get it. Again, right up to the edge of the curb, don't go over it. That's big trouble. If you brush it just a little bit with the tire, you should be just fine. Getting back on the power. You don't want to really run right to the edge of the track, just kind of unwind the wheel and get over to the left, but not onto that curb. You don't need to, unless you're losing control. So back up the gears up to third gear. So coming up here, this is an important corner. If you've got a car right in front of you, keep your tires on the pavement if you can't see well. But if you've got some space in front of you and you can see the track well, you want to actually get your left tires onto the grass, which usually is quite dangerous. But as you're just approaching this kink, this sort of the ridge where it flattens out, you start your turn in, and if you have your left tires on the grass, you're going to get a lot better rotation. You're going to get a better slip angle coming into this one. So it's just the slightest of lift. Again, if this was 22 degrees, I wouldn't even be lifting on hot tires. And you don't want to get too far into this grass. You're going to lose control of the car, but get that tire right on the curb there. There's a little nasty bump here, so you want to make sure you're off of it. You don't want to hit that one. And you'll see in full motion, when I do the full motion, just how the rear end turns and really rotates better. Again, I have to lift the tires, or the track is slick. But back up to full power here, and it really, even with the lifts, didn't cost me that much time really. And keeping the tire on the white curb patch here, don't get on the grass, it's an off track, you'll lose your back end, it's going to be a bad day. So again, I'm braking just before the red and yellow curb. Normally I would be closer up to the changeover here where I brake, but because it's slick, I'm braking a little early. Pretty good on the brakes, just a little burst of them down into, in third gear. You're still in third gear. You ran that whole section through the bridge in third gear. I don't think I mentioned that. And you want to really abuse this curb here. Now if you get your tire into the grass here, you're going to get an off track. However, it is going to speed this. You are going to gain some time if you do that. If you're trying to catch up to some cars in front of you, or if you're trying to lose some cars behind you, it's up to you. If you want to take the 1X, take a little bit of this grass and cheat a bit, and you will gain a little bit of time, not much, but a tenth. Third gear. And this section's really important that you nail all of these corners. Don't come into that last corner too hot, because you will ruin the rest of these corners coming up, trying to get the car back stable and get it on the racing line. So take this curb. We're still in third, going to be shifting up into fourth. Now, shifting up into fourth, again, if there's no car in front of you. If you've got a car in front of you, I would suggest staying in third. But if you've got some clear air, shift up into fourth. I find it maybe just a tiny bit faster, but where it really counts is coming up here, is downshifting. Just helps slow the car and keep it nice and settled. So normally I would be braking just before this, again, this transition. If the track is cold, but because it's hot, I'm braking a little earlier. I think my mic cut cut out there. So again, just before this transition, on cold track I would be braking here, but I'm braking a little earlier, shifting down into third, and turning in at that transition, heading towards the white patch here, getting on the power, and you really want to abuse this curb. Got to get the tires all on that white, but avoid the grass. Full power. Exit wide out to these curbs here. If you're on the white, you're okay. Once you get into the dirt, though, you're going to get an off track, and you got to get the car back on track before the edge here. If you run too much into this edge, you'll get another off track. Lots of off tracks around here, easy to get. So up into fourth gear, you want to take the car sort of mid-track. You won't lose too much time if you got to hold the right-hand side, but mid-track ideally. Fourth gear, coming up to this patch. So at the end of the white section here, you want to turn left. It's a blind corner, well, sort of a kink, I guess. This one takes a little practice, but basically turning left at that white curb. Now this part here I screwed up a little bit. You normally want to get your left tire onto this pavement here. I went a little too far left, upset the car. It probably only cost me 2/100ths here, 2 or 3/100ths, but by the time I get down to the end of the hill, that mistake cost me 1/10 easily. So that one just takes a little practice. Do as I say, not as I do. Coming down here in fourth gear, you want to stay off the grass. I got a little on the grass there because of that last kink. Braking down at the base of this hill. Again, if the track was cool, I'd probably be braking right about here, but I've had to brake early because it's slick. Down into second gear, hard on the brakes just to slow the car down, and then just releasing the brakes, getting on the throttle. That's the important part. Again, the track's slick, so I'm turning in here a little earlier, but back on the power and just sort of feathering it, making sure you're not going to lose the back end. And you want to get on the curb here, but not over. You get the tire over the edge there, you're going to lose a lot of time, and good chance you'll lose control. So keep it just on the curb, full power, and run it out wide. You got lots of room out wide here. This is a spot where a lot of people will screw up, or if you're battling, will lose a lot of time here, and then you lose a lot of time in the straight. So really try and nail that one. If there's a car in front of you going into that hill, even just back off a smidge so you can get a better run coming into this straight. And so that's 113.6 again on a hot track. So watch that when you're on track or in a race. Check that temperature, because you can be a little bit more aggressive if it's cooler. So good luck, see you out there. Hit the like or subscribe, and we'll run this at full speed.